Discover how a new cleaning lady unexpectedly changed the lives of a millionaire's silent twins in the lavish mansion of Bloomfield Hills, where marble floors glistened under glittering chandeliers. Two 16-year-old silent twins, Charlie and Grace, found themselves adrift in a sea of isolation. Their parents, Margaret and Thomas, successful corporate titans, valued appearances above all. They filled their home with luxury, but neglected the one thing Charlie and Grace craved: connection. Each day felt like a performance where they silently danced to the tune of their parents' expectations, suffocating beneath the weight of material excess. But then came Maria. She stepped through the sprawling front door one gray morning, her eyes warm and earnest, ready to tidy up the twins' world. Her presence, marked by honest laughter and stories of resilience, shattered the suffocating silence that had engulfed the mansion. She spoke of her life, a faraway world of struggle and courage in Detroit. The twins lingered, captivated by her tales of perseverance that resonated so deeply within them. In those moments, the mansion's cold walls felt a little less intimidating. Life isn't just about how much you have. It's about what you do with it. Maria's voice lingered in their thoughts, igniting a spark of hope. As they listened, Charlie felt a tightness in her chest ease, while Grace smiled for the first time in ages. The twins slipped out of their silent shadows, sharing smiles and glances that spoke volumes. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let us continue. When Maria lost her job due to the family's faltering finances, Charlie and Grace were thrown into a storm of emotions. They felt the sting of injustice and a growing sense of duty to protect the woman who had unlocked their hearts. Would they let their parents' disdain stifle their newfound strength? For the first time, they clung to each other, their fingers intertwined in a silent vow, no longer willing to be mere shadows in their own lives. Confrontation loomed. The twins faced their parents, hearts racing as they spoke with voices born from years of silence. Maria deserves better. The words tumbled out, raw and powerful, shattering their family's carefully constructed facade. Margaret and Thomas were furious, their anger mingling with confusion. The twins felt fear clutching at their hearts, yet a surge of defiance fueled their resolve. The siblings felt the emotional clash within and around them. They were more determined than ever to stand up for Maria. They gathered their peers, whispering their hopes of change, igniting a quiet rebellion within their affluent enclave. But doubt flickered like a candle in the wind. Could they really challenge the status quo? Charlie and Grace exchanged worried glances. The upcoming rally pressed down on them, heavy with uncertainty. Would they find the courage to speak up, or would silence consume them once more? In the midst of the opulence, their hearts pulsed with a longing for justice and connection. With the weight of their fate and Maria's on their shoulders, the twins stood at a pivotal crossroads, the future uncertain and brimming with possibility. The days leading up to the rally felt like a tightrope walk for Charlie and Grace. Every glance from their parents added weight to their hearts. Every silence felt like another layer of tension wrapped around them. The mansion, once a gilded cage, now started to feel like a stage, with their family dynamics playing out in full view of their peers. On the morning of the rally, the twins stood in front of the mirror, a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling inside them. Charlie adjusted her hair, an unusual boldness flashing in her eyes. Grace, typically the quieter of the two, fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. What if they don't understand? She whispered, a crack of fear betraying her strong exterior. They will, Charlie replied, her voice steady despite the bubbling chaos within. We have to try. They arrived at the park where the rally was set to take place. Colorful flyers fluttered in their hands, slogans like "Stand Together for Justice" and "Everyone Deserves a Voice" seemed almost too hopeful against the gray sky. The crowd was already gathering, a mixture of curious onlookers and passionate supporters. Charlie squeezed Grace's hand tightly. They were united in purpose, their hearts in sync. Despite the world around them buzzing with noise that their classmates rallied around, their whispers turned into cheers. The twins took a deep breath as they approached the makeshift stage, their palms clammy and their knees shaky. It was now or never. Charlie stepped up first, glancing at Grace, who nodded, offering a silent bolt of encouragement. Maria taught us that what truly matters isn't wealth or luxury, but the connections we make, she began, her voice trembling but resolute. The crowd softened, the chatter fading into a hush. We grew up in a mansion filled with everything we could ever want, yet we felt utterly alone. Grace joined her, her heart racing, but a fire ignited within her too. And we are tired of being silent. Grace added, her voice rising, commanding attention. Maria deserves respect. She gave us hope when no one else could. There was a ripple of excitement among their peers. Charlie felt a warmth spread through her chest. Their words were landing, resonating in the hearts of those listening. But then, just as their voices began to rise and gain strength, they heard the scornful whispers of their parents cutting through the crowd like sharp knives. What in the world are they doing? Margaret's voice was cold, cutting through the air. Charlie's heart sank. The sight of her parents, eyes sharp with disapproval, felt like a crushing weight. In that moment, doubt appeared in the corners of her mind. Would they still have any support if they stood up against their own family? Grace faltered, uncertainty clouding her features. But amidst the crackle of fear, a glimmer of determination ignited. Just keep going, Charlie whispered to Grace, their sisterly bond bolstering their resolve. Gathering every ounce of courage, they pushed forward, unwavering. Together, we can change this. They shouted in unison, their voices growing stronger than the chaos around them. And then they saw it. Their classmates began to chant in response, Charlie and Grace. Charlie and Grace. An electric energy surged through the crowd. But in the crowd, a figure emerged, someone who wasn't there to support them. It was Maria, her eyes filled with tears of pride, but also hesitation. What would her life be like if they succeeded? Would she be welcomed back, or would losing her job keep her too far from their world? With one glance, Maria caught their gaze, and the twins saw that same burning spirit mirrored in her. As the chant echoed louder, Charlie felt the fire rise inside her. Their fight, it wasn't just for Maria anymore. It was for all those who had been silenced. But what would happen when the rally ended? How would their families respond once they left this stage? Charlie looked at Grace, still clinging to hope, and knew they were on the precipice of something bigger than themselves. They were stepping into a storm. Would they be able to weather it together? The crowd's chant filled the air, a wave of energy that ignited something profound within Charlie and Grace. They had traded the uncertainty of their home for the fervor of a movement, and with each shout of their names, adrenaline coursed through their veins. Yet the weight of their parents' disapproval pressed down like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over their triumphant moment. Keep going. Grace's voice rang out, stronger now, an echo of Charlie's earlier encouragement. They weren't just speaking for themselves anymore, they were speaking for everyone who felt unseen, unheard. From the back, Margaret crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. Next to her, Mr. Johnson's face twisted in disbelief. The twins took a collective breath, steadied by the pulsating rhythm of their peers' chant. They were no longer just the silent girls in the mansion. They were warriors for change. Maria? Charlie called out, her eyes locking onto their beloved housekeeper. This is for you. For all of us. Maria's smile was a bittersweet tapestry of pride and sorrow. She stepped forward, her fears palpable. What would they gain? What would they lose? In that brief moment, the twins realized how entwined their destinies had become. They were all risking something, some more than others. The rally blazed on, the crowd's energy washing over Charlie and Grace like a cleansing tide. As they poured their hearts out, it felt as if the world itself paused, hanging on to every word. But every declaration of support mingled with anticipation and dread. With every cheer, the inevitable departure from this fervor loomed larger. Each chant carried the weight of their family's whispers, a reminder of the lives they lived behind closed doors. Suddenly, a reminder of their past flared to life. In a hushed voice, one of their classmates yelled, "What about your parents?" The enthusiasm in the crowd wavered, replaced with a hesitant murmur. Grace's throat tightened. "We're fighting for them too." She shot back, almost desperate. It was then that she realized the battle wasn't just external, but an internal one, too. How did they resolve the conflicting lives they led, the privilege and isolation of the mansion against the unity blossoming in this park? I want my parents to change, Charlie declared. We want to live in a world where everyone is treated equally, where our friends aren't judged by their backgrounds. The anger that bubbled up was pure, untamed. It felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. As the crowd cheered, their voices climbing to unprecedented heights, a shift occurred. Members of their extended family began to move forward, their eyes wide as if recognizing the twins for the first time. Maybe they're right, one voice chimed in, shaky but hopeful. Maybe it's time we listened. In that moment, Charlie and Grace's hearts soared. They could see flickers of understanding in the crowd, each familiar face reflecting pieces of their story, the loneliness, the longing for acceptance. But just then, something shifted. A figure stepped out from behind their parents, one they hadn't expected to see. It was Liz, their proud cousin, her brow furrowed with concern but eyes brimming with something that felt almost like defiance. "What are you doing?" she shouted, piercing through the moment like a bolt of lightning. "You are harming our family's reputation. Don't you care about what this could mean for us?" The crowd fell silent. Tension surged through the air. Charlie and Grace exchanged a look of panic, their unity suddenly feeling fragile. "Do we count?" Charlie whispered to her sister, a trembling doubt creeping in. Would their fight destroy the very fabric of their family? In that brief heartbeat of stillness, as they stood before an increasingly silent crowd, everything hung in the balance. The future they longed for felt closer, but so did the possibility of losing everything they once knew. Now faced with the weight of expectation and familial loyalty, would they bravely carry on? Or would the fear of losing their family cause them to retreat into silence once more? The silence that enveloped the crowd was deafening. Charlie's heart raced as she locked eyes with Grace, uncertainty flooding her soul. Liz's accusation lingered like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash a downpour of doubt. "Charlie, what do we do?" Grace's voice, usually so vibrant, trembled under the weight of their cousin's words. Before Charlie could respond, Margaret stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "I think they're right, Liz. We can't continue turning a blind eye. The world is changing, and we must change with it." A murmur rippled through the crowd, faces shifting from uncertainty to realization. It was as if Margaret's words ignited a spark, reminding everyone of the power in unity. "Are we truly so afraid of a little change?" Charlie shouted, letting her voice swell with passion. "Is our reputation worth more than standing up for what's right? We owe it to every person who has felt like they don't belong." Liz's expression faltered. The fierceness that had once burned in her eyes now seemed to wane, replaced with confusion. "But think about the family. The legacy. There's power in every legacy." Grace chimed in, her own reservations dissipating alongside her sister's brave stance. "We can build a legacy that welcomes everyone, unifies us, rather than divides us." With each proclamation, the crowd began to pulse with renewed energy. People raised their signs higher, voices swelling again with chants. Unity filled the park like a warm embrace, wrapping around the twins and infusing them with the strength of everyone present. Yet, amidst the exhilaration, a small voice within Charlie wavered. What about her parents? What about the love they had known that was now clouded with expectations? Just then, Maria stepped forward, her face reflecting a mosaic of emotions. "You girls have always had a fire spark. Don't let fear snuff it out. You're right to call for change, even if it feels daunting." As she spoke, it felt as though Maria was peeling away the layers of doubt that had been closing in, showing them the light they once felt in their quieter moments together. But Liz stepped back again, shaking her head, fighting the swell of doubts breaching her own defenses. "But what if you lose everything? You can't throw away your family for this. For people you hardly know." A wave of murmurs surged through the crowd again, a reflection of the divided emotions they felt. Families pressed against one another, some wishing to support the twins, while others clung to their loyalty to tradition and reputation. It was a dance between fear and hope, and Charlie felt the stakes only heightening with every passing moment. "Maybe that's the point," Grace shouted suddenly, her words punctured through the veil of hesitation. What do we stand to gain if we don't take the leap? Isn't living in harmony worth risking everything we've known? As the crowd absorbed her words, a few hesitant figures began to emerge. Friends and allies moved forward, tentatively at first, but their determination grew stronger with every compelling statement from the twins. A few from the back started chanting, "We are the change." Amidst the fervor of voices rising, Charlie felt her heart pounding, woven with hope and fear. Would this newfound clarity be enough to sway their familial ties, or would this moment splinter their world even more? Realizing their pull to the present was stronger than the pull of the past, Charlie reached out for Grace's hand. It was time to stand tall as both warriors and daughters, and just as they raised their joined hands to the crowd, ready to harness their resolve, Margaret whispered something only they could hear. "No matter what happens next, remember you're not alone." But what if Margaret was wrong? What if the act of defiance they were about to commit triggered a landslide they couldn't contain? Each heartbeat echoed the unresolved future, leaving them at the precipice of the unknown. "Are we ready?" Charlie whispered, her voice barely breaking through the rising cheers. Before Grace could answer, a loud crash of thunder sounded overhead, drawing startled glances from everyone. A storm was brewing. Was this a sign of impending turmoil, or just a natural turn of events? Just then, a figure stepped forward from the shadows, someone they didn't expect to see. It was their mother, wide-eyed and visibly shaken. "Girls, please wait, what would she say? Would she come to their side, or would she pull them back into the shadows they had fought so hard to escape?" The crowd hushed. All eyes turned toward their mother, her presence an anchor amidst the uncertainty swirling around them. Charlie felt a lump rise in her throat, a jumbled mix of emotions bubbling to the surface. She had envisioned this moment countless times, imagining her mother's support, her understanding. But now, with this sudden shift, the tension felt like a taut string ready to snap. "Mom," Grace called out, her voice cracking. The sisters' hands remained clasped, a lifeline connecting them even as the rift felt so wide. "Listen," their mother began, shaking slightly. Was it from fear or from something deeper? "I know you're both passionate about this." She hesitated, looking at the crowd, then back at her daughters. "But change comes with consequences. You have to understand the risks." "Our family, Mom," Charlie interrupted, unable to contain her frustration. "You taught us to stand up for what's right. This is about love and acceptance. How can you not see that?" The wind picked up, rustling the leaves overhead as if nature itself was drawing in a breath. It was as if, for a moment, the universe held its breath, waiting. People murmured, and Charlie could see their expressions, some hopeful, others apprehensive. "Please don't turn away from us," Grace urged, her eyes glistening. "We want you with us. We need you to understand." Their mother closed her eyes, taking a deep breath that seemed to settle deep inside her chest. "You're right," she said at last, her voice steadying. "I've always wanted you both to speak your truth. I just worry, what if this truth leads to a fracture we can't mend?" Charlie felt her chest tighten. "What is worth more to you? Our happiness, or the legacy of this family?" There it was, a question that hung heavy in the air, carrying the weight of countless family dinners and unspoken expectations. The sky crackled with energy as thunder rumbled again, the storm outside mirroring her internal struggle. Everyone watched, breaths held, waiting for their mother to respond. "Your happiness matters most," but she trailed off, and Charlie could see the tears pooling in her mother's eyes. "But family is complicated. I don't want to lose you." In that moment, Charlie felt as if the ground beneath her shifted. "But we have to stand up for those who are already lost, who have been silenced." The crowd erupted into chants again, louder this time, bold, fearless proclamations of what was to come. For every chant, Charlie felt strength swelling within her, and she knew this moment was bigger than her family. It was about everyone who feared to speak out, everyone who had ever felt marginalized. Their mother finally stepped forward, reaching out as if to grasp onto something solid. "Okay, I'll listen," she breathed, swallowing hard, as acceptance washed over her face. "But you must promise me to be careful. This is a leap into the unknown." Charlie's heart soared as a wave of cheers erupted from the crowd, a collective exhale of relief and triumph. Yet as the cheers filled the air, a flicker of doubt lingered in her heart. What if their victory today, came with unanticipated costs tomorrow. Standing there, hand in hand with Grace, they were no longer just twins, they were changemakers. As the storm clouds shifted ominously above, filled with uncertainty and promise, a familiar figure rushed through the crowd. It was Uncle Ben, eyes wide as he approached, his urgency palpable. "Wait, I just heard something," he said breathlessly, looking at them with a mix of fear and determination. "You need to know what's coming. There are people who might fight back harder than you expect." What would he reveal? Would it change everything they had just fought for? Uncle Ben's voice cut through the celebratory shouts, dragging everyone back to reality. The air, once electric with hope, grew thick with tension. Charlie felt her heart race. What danger loomed just beyond the horizon? She and Grace exchanged anxious glances, their earlier triumph suddenly feeling fragile. "Uncle Ben, what do you mean?" Grace asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. He looked around, his gaze darting as if he feared being overheard. "I overheard some conversations," he began, lowering his voice. "There are people in town who want to stand for what you're trying to do. They'll push back, maybe even threaten." Charlie's breath caught. "Threaten how?" Ben's eyes darkened as he continued. "I can't say for sure, but I heard talk of protests against you two specifically. They're framing this as a threat to community values, and with the rally coming up, it's only going to escalate." The siblings' hands tightened around each other. The warmth that had ignited between them moments before felt like a flickering candle against a growing storm. The realization of what they were stepping into hit Charlie like a punch to the gut. "But we're standing for love," Grace exclaimed, a note of desperation in her voice. "How can they see that as a threat?" "People are afraid of change," Uncle Ben replied, his voice heavy with concern. "Sometimes they lash out at what they don't understand." The crowd was still cheering, lost in their stream of hope, but Charlie felt a slow, creeping fear settle within her. Not the fear of standing up. No, she knew she could do that. It was the fear of what they might lose. Family, friendships, all that they held dear. Mom said she'd listen, Charlie reminded herself, albeit quietly. "Are you prepared for what might happen next?" Ben's question hung in the air. "Because this can turn ugly very quickly, and I'm not sure how much we can protect you." The cheers began to falter, and Charlie's thoughts raced. She wanted to yell at him, demand he say this wasn't true, but the truth was clinging to her heart like a stubborn vine. The weight of their decision was heavier than before, and she could see the flicker of fear mirrored in Grace's eyes. "We can't back down," Charlie finally said, her voice gaining strength. "People need to see us standing together. If we waver, it tells them they were right to be afraid. What if it threatens Mom, Dad, and everyone else?" Grace whispered, glancing toward their mother, who stood quietly, still processing the whirlwind unfolding around her. "Then we show them we're not afraid," Charlie declared, feeling a fresh wave of determination course through her. "We stand as one. For every person who has ever felt like they didn't belong. For every person who was silenced." The crowd began to rally again, their voices rising like a wave. And in that moment, Charlie realized that maybe they could shift the tide. Maybe love would always be stronger than fear. But just then, a loud crack echoed through the air. Lightning struck nearby, the flash illuminating the faces around them in stark relief. Gasps filled the crowd. People began to look around nervously, uncertainty creeping back into their hearts. The weather was more than just a storm. It felt like a metaphor for what lay ahead. Could they weather this? Or were they about to be swept away by a force they couldn't control? As Charlie scanned the faces in the crowd, her heart skipped a beat. Among them, she spotted a familiar silhouette, a man leaning defiantly against a tree, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. It was Josh, the boy who had once been a friend, now a stranger. His expression was unreadable, but in the depths of those eyes, Charlie felt a flicker of unpredictability. Did he stand with them or against them? The question echoed in her mind, amplifying her uncertainty. What if he was part of the resistance Uncle Ben warned about? Charlie squeezed Grace's hand tighter, swallowing hard. Whatever came next, it would require more than just their resolve. It would take courage, unity, and an unwavering belief that love could overcome any storm, both inside and out. "Here we go," she whispered, steeling herself for the challenge ahead as the storm loomed ominously above. Would they be ready for what lay beyond the horizon? Or would the very foundation they stood on begin to crumble? An unexpected figure loomed on the fringes of the crowd, an ally or an enemy. As the winds picked up, carrying the whispers of the gathering storm, Charlie sensed their moment of truth was creeping ever closer. The wind picked up, whipping around Charlie and Grace as they surveyed the crowd. Fear tangled with determination, creating a storm in their hearts. Uncle Ben stood beside them, an anchor of experience and worry, but Charlie felt the weight of the moment press down, the anticipation building like thunder in the distance. "Listen," Uncle Ben said, leaning in closer. "If it gets too intense, find me. Don't hesitate to leave if it comes to that." Charlie shook her head, a flame igniting in her chest. "No, we won't run. Not now, not after everything we've fought for." Grace's finger traced her brother's arm, searching for reassurance. "Are you sure we can do this?" Charlie glanced back at the crowd, the faces illuminated by the flickering light from the distant lightning strikes. They were scared, but they were also hopeful. Strangers united by a dream that resonated deep within the marrow of their bones. "Together," she affirmed, squeezing Grace's hand again. "We can do this together." The air crackled with a palpable energy as the rally kicked off. Rally leaders spoke passionately about love and acceptance, their voices resonating in the space between thunderclaps. Each word, a call to their community, urging them to embrace change. The audience responded, cheers erupting like fireworks. As the speakers dwelled on the power of unity, Charlie felt the atmosphere shift. Some faces glowed with pride, while others darkened with skepticism. And there, Joshua still stood, silent like a sentry, watching from the perimeter, each glance he threw in their direction heavy with the weight of memories. "What's he thinking?" Grace murmured, her voice barely audible over the chants. Charlie's heart raced at that question. Josh had been a friend once, part of the safe space they built together. "I don't know," she replied honestly, afraid yet fascinated by the conflict brewing within him. With another rumble of thunder, the first drops of rain began to fall. It hit the ground, a splash of cold reality against their warm resolve. But rather than fleeing, the crowd stood firm, arms raised high, rallying against the oppressive skies. "Change is scary," the speaker shouted, drenching everyone in fiery conviction. "But fear can become fuel. Let our voices drown out the doubt. Together, we can make our community a safe haven for all." Charlie's heart thumped in rhythm with the crowd. She felt the warmth of solidarity swell around her, giving her strength. She thought of all the hands holding on to the banner of acceptance, hers, Grace's, their mother's. If countless voices united could spark hope, then surely one voice could stir a hidden heart. "Charlie." Uncle Ben's voice broke through, keeping her focus. "If you need to say something, now is the time." She swallowed the lump in her throat. A voice inside her urged her forward. This was more than just a rally. It was a moment to stand, to speak, to declare their truth. But before she could move, a shout erupted from the back of the crowd. "They're coming." A wave of panic swept through the audience. The cries of fear drowned out the hope, a surge of chaos bubbling to the surface. "Who?" Charlie shouted, but the question was swallowed by rising tension. Josh stepped forward from the shadows, his face now fully visible, but the look in his eyes was conflicting. Was he stepping in to help? Or was he the one who brought the storm crashing down on them? Charlie's pulse quickened. Josh had been a symbol of inclusivity, and yet here he was, an enigma standing at the edge of uncertainty. She had to find out where he stood. As the crowd began to move restlessly, she took a deep breath. There were decisions to be made, and she needed to make the right ones quickly. With her heart pounding like a drum, she turned to Grace. "We can't let fear win. We need to face this together." With her voice steady, she stepped toward the front, every part of her embracing the fleeting moment, ready for whatever storm lay ahead. Would Josh speak out, revealing the truth? Or were they about to be swept into chaos? The storm raged on. Charlie's heart raced as the murmur of the crowd grew louder. People began to shuffle uneasily, faces blurring into a tapestry of confusion and fear. She stepped forward, feeling Grace cling tighter to her side, grounding her in this swirling uncertainty. "Stay with me," Charlie whispered, casting a glance back at Uncle Ben, searching for guidance in his anxious gaze. Instead, She found only encouragement, the slight nod of his head urging her to take charge. Josh stood firm, still a question mark against the backdrop of chaos. He could either rally the crowd or send them into deeper disarray. She needed to bridge that gap. "Everyone," Charlie shouted, projecting her voice over the growing clamor. "Listen to me." It was bold, maybe even foolish, but the fire inside her demanded action. "We can stand together. We can choose hope over fear." For a moment, silence fell, rippling through the crowd's unease like a sudden calm before thunder. The shift was electric. All eyes snapped to her, some faces filled with skepticism, others lighting up with the spark of recognition. She could see them, individuals who had fought their own battles, united by a shared desire for something better, just like she had. "Yes," someone shouted from the back. "Don't let them scare us." Encouraged, Charlie pressed on, her voice steadier now. "They want us to retreat into silence. We can't let that happen. We're here because we believe in a brighter future, a future where everyone belongs." A chant erupted, building from the whispers of the crowd, the rhythm capturing everyone's hearts. "Hope, hope, hope." They marched to the beat of a renewed conviction, hands in the air, fists clenched, a line drawn in the sand against the looming fear. Josh remained at the threshold of the crowd, watching, hesitating. Each cheer felt like hope reaching out, beckoning him back into their fold. "Charlie." Grace tugged at her sleeve, her eyes wide. "What if they really are coming?" Charlie scanned the horizon, the rain now falling harder, pounding against the earth and mirroring her impatient heart. "We can't worry about that. We have to stand our ground. People need to see us united." But what if Josh doesn't? With that nagging thought, she turned back toward him. His expression, a mix of withdrawal and yearning, spoke volumes. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing in on her. "Joshua," she called, her voice cutting through the reigning fear. "What do you believe?" His eyes met hers, and for a flickering second, the world around them faded away. I want to fight for us, Charlie," he finally said, stepping forward out of the shadows. "But I don't know if it's too late for some." The crowd surged, adrenaline pulsing through the air, the sound of rain, rally cries, and their collective heartbeat became one. "Then stand with us," Charlie urged, heart hammering. "Help us push through. Join us," echoed someone else from the crowd, rebounding through the rain-soaked air, asking for unity when it seemed unlikely. Josh hesitated, glancing between his old friends and the storm that still lingered at their backs. It was a defining moment, one that could shift each of their destinies forever. Charlie watched, breath suspended, waiting for him to make his choice. The storm, both physical and emotional, loomed heavy above them. "Join us," she said once more, softer now, a thread of hope woven into her plea, "before it's too late." With that, the air pulsed with potential change, and Charlie realized that the storm was not just around them, it was also within them. What would Josh choose as the storm raged on? Josh's breath hitched in his throat as he grappled with his decision. The rain slicked his hair to his forehead, droplets racing down his face as he searched the crowd, his thoughts swirling like the storm above. He could feel Charlie's unwavering gaze anchoring him. With each heartbeat, he weighed the options laid before him. He could turn back, dive into the shadows of doubt that had plagued him for so long. Or he could step forward, embrace the light of hope that radiated from Charlie and the crowd. "Josh," someone shouted from behind him. "We need you out here." It was a voice he recognized, one that had been part of his life for so long, filled with longing for unity. He turned to see his friends from years past, their expressions a blend of fear and determination. They were all fighting their own battles, just as he was. "Join us." The chant rang out again, infectious and raw, echoing in his chest. He could feel the tension across the crowd. Some were clenching their fists, others had tears in their eyes. They were lending their strength to him, waiting for his answer, his commitment. In that moment, he realized they were no longer asking just for him. They were demanding the very essence of their shared existence, a call to stand together against the looming shadows of fear. Charlie, his voice was shaky, a threadbare whisper beneath the tempest. "What if I fail? What if I can't keep the hope alive?" "Then we try again," she replied, her voice smooth as silk. "We do this together, as a community, as family." But turning away isn't living. The weight of her words settled deep in his chest, resonating as a truth that was undeniable. He looked around at the faces those who had been through storms of their own. He saw resilience, an echo of what he secretly longed for within himself. "Okay," he said, the word tumbling out like a rogue wave finally breaching the shoreline. "I'm in." A near-audible sigh swept through the crowd, followed by a swell of cheers. "Hope! Hope! Hope!" they chanted, louder this time, the rhythm almost deafening against the storm. As Josh stepped forward, the energy shifted. He felt the hands of friends reach out to him, clasping his shoulders and arms, pulling him into their fold. For the first time in ages, he felt a genuine sense of belonging. He felt alive. Charlie's smile pierced through the dreary rain, and in her eyes, he saw joy mixed with empires of struggle until all barriers disappeared. Whatever doubts he had, whatever storm he faced, he knew he wouldn't tackle it alone. "Together, we'll create our future," Charlie called out, a fierce determination lighting her features. "This is just the beginning." The rain continued to pour, washing away the lingering fear. They were aglow with the electricity of change, a movement ignited. But just as they began to rally, a loud crack of thunder silenced the moment. The air grew heavy, tense with uncertainty. "What is happening?" Grace whimpered, clutching Charlie's arm. The crowd turned to look toward the horizon. Dark shapes were emerging, shadows shifting and moving like something alive. This was not just a storm. The storm carried more than just rain and wind. "What now?" Josh whispered, his heart dropping into the pit of his stomach as realization began to settle. Charlie squeezed his hand tightly. "Whatever it is, we face it together." The question hung in the air. Would their newfound unity be enough to withstand whatever was coming? The storm raged on, a furious symphony of thunder and rain surrounding the rally as Charlie and Grace stood firm, hands clasped, hearts racing with unrestrained courage. The shadows moved closer, and the crowd, filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, huddled together, their breath caught in their throats. "Together!" Charlie shouted, lifting her chin defiantly. "We won't back down." Her voice sliced through the tempest, igniting a fire in the hearts of those surrounding her. As the rain poured, each droplet felt like a blessing, a cleansing of old fears, and the crowd responded, stepping closer to one another, creating a wall of unity against the unknown. Then, just ahead, the dark figures emerged fully from the shadows, a group of protesters led by men and women whose faces bore resentment and anger. They held signs declaring their disdain, messages aimed at silencing the light that Charlie and Grace sought to spread. "Stop this madness," one of the leaders yelled, thrusting an arm forward. "You're not welcome here." But the words pierced the rally as useless as deflated balloons. "We will be heard," Grace yelled back, spurred by the adrenaline coursing through her. "We stand for love, diversity, and connection. No one is silenced." The tension thickened as the opposing group moved closer, but rather than retreating, the crowd surged forward, a wall of hope waving against the gathering storm. Josh's hand found Charlie's again, their fingers weaving a fabric of strength. In this moment, unity transformed beyond mere barking chants. It became a collective heartbeat. "Let us show them," Josh shouted, inspiring the crowd to raise their voices. "We are not afraid." From the back, Uncle Ben looked on, tears welling in his eyes as he recognized the metamorphosis taking place before him. This was not just about Charlie and Grace anymore. It was a turning point for the entire community. The protesters hesitated, taken aback by the surge of resilience before them. They didn't expect such vigor. They thought fear would spread like smoke. "What do you want?" one leader exclaimed, vulnerability breaking through his rough exterior. Charlie stood taller. "We want you to see us. We want you to understand that change isn't a threat. It's an opportunity." As the rain beat down, each word resonated over the clamor of the storm, each syllable echoing the deep-rooted desire for acceptance. Some in the opposing group started to pull back, doubt flickering in their eyes, as if the rain washed away the chains of narrow-mindedness that shackled their hearts. The collective energy pulsed like a living organism, a force so powerful it could awaken the buried kindness inside those around them. "We will love, no matter what," Grace added, interlacing hope into every voice. The movement tugged at the edges of their hearts, casting off the shackles that had once held them down. Then, their mother stepped forward, each step a declaration of her support, her own doubts washed away in the storm's fervor. "You are my daughters. You are right." Margaret's voice rang out above the crowd, a beacon guiding them through the tempest. "You've shown me the light we've overlooked." Gasps of astonishment rippled through the crowd as she stood shoulder to shoulder with her own daughters, heart wide open. With a shared breath, a wave of understanding washed over the protesters. They saw Margaret's courage and clarity, melting the ice in their hearts. The weathered faces of the opposing crowd began to soften, their convictions wavering. "This isn't about right or wrong," Charlie continued, her voice breaking through the tension. "It's about connection, about understanding. This moment can reshape our community into a place of love." And just like that, Charlie witnessed the flickers of change manifesting before her. The protesters exchanged glances, uncertainty giving way to realization as the humanity in the rally resonated within them. As the rain fell harder, washing away the barriers separating them, Charlie felt the air shift. People began to lower their signs one by one, their expressions softening as acceptance filled the space between them. "Maybe we can learn together," one protester muttered, eyes glistening with fresh tears. "Together." The crowd roared in response, echoing the chords of bravery and empathy that resonated through the park. As the final shouts of unity reverberated, the storm began to quiet. The horizon glowed softly, a tender promise of a brighter tomorrow breaking through the clouds. Charlie and Grace, standing hand in hand, beamed with tears of joy, knowing this was their moment, a moment of profound transformation. They had fought not just for themselves, but for an entire community yearning for change. Family, friends, and once opposing factions now stood side by side, hearts aligned in a collective mission. "Let this be the beginning," Charlie shouted, her voice resonating through the aftermath of the storm. "A new journey, a new us." In that charged silence, the air crackled with the exhilarating promise of what was to come. As the crowds dissolved into laughter and joyful chatter, Charlie caught a glimpse of her mother, eyes shining with pride. She had become the bridge between two worlds. Together, they could face whatever lay ahead. This was just the beginning, but it was theirs, one grounded in love, compassion, and unshakable unity. And as they walked forward, indomitable in spirit, the world around them smiled back, reflecting the beauty they had dared to embrace. As you relive their journey, remember the power of standing up, and let this serve as a reminder. Your voice matters. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to not miss exclusive stories like this. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make a real difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Be the catalyst for change.